What's up, sports fans? Welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. I hope everyone's having a great start off to their week. I know it's only Tuesday, and hopefully it's feeling very productive so far. I know it's a productive Tuesday in the sports world. We had the Tampa Bay Lightning play yesterday, and we had some major training camp action between yesterday and today for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So, of course, we'll dive in and kick it off with the NFL. Training camp protocols seem to be going well thus far. No teams have had to register any kind of outbreaks, any kind of issues within the systems and the protocols in play right now. We know that the NFL and the NFLPA are still negotiating some protocols that need to be put into place as the guys start working more through training camp and head into the season with there being no preseason. So fingers crossed that things continue to go well. We know that most of the facilities, they are, as for specific to the Bucks facility, they have a trailer adjacent to where the guys go in and enter. They have to go there first. They get tested for COVID swab. They log into a system. They go through a survey. They do all the prep work of symptoms and whatnot. I know protocol-wise, they know that if a guy tests positive, him and anyone who has been around him, even if they test negative, will end up going into quarantine just to be safe. So this Thursday is the deadline for players to opt out of the 2020 NFL season. We have only heard of 31 players thus far, so hopefully it doesn't get any further, although we do understand that if you have families, small children, it's not about you, it's about your entire unit. Sources say that the union got the owners to agree to a number of changes. So within the next week, we should hear what those final changes and safety protocols and procedures will be in order to have a successful, hopeful 2020 NFL season. Now, Jaguars activate Minshew off the COVID list, and when he was asked, how are you feeling? How's recovery going? He said that basically COVID ran from him. So in other words, recovery is going quite fine. It's safe to say. Bucks press conference, we had the opportunity to hop on a call with Shaq Barrett. We know that he was one of the dynamic forces on the defense for the Bucks this past season. And when we got a chance to interview him for that last game of the season, he was like, look, I just want to stay in Tampa Bay, whatever it takes. And they were able to work that out. Now, when he was asked about the contract negotiations and how that went, he said, it was kind of rough at first because with everything going on with COVID and salary caps changing, there had to be, some push and pulls with negotiations, but they got it done. And Barrett is a Buck, and he plans to put all that effort back on the field for round 2 this year. Now, we got a chance to ask him a few questions. Of course, one of the big questions in any interview nowadays is, how are you managing COVID-19? If you have a family, how are they handling it? And if you have small kids, what's it like to be a dad as an athlete and, navigate through COVID-19? If you didn't know, Shaq is he's a dad of 3 little ones. And he's like, you know what, it is tough, especially because when you're young and you're a child, even though we're explaining to them what's going on, for them, it's almost like COVID is already come and gone. So kids start itching to get out there and have fun or go hang out with their friends. As for letting them back in the school system just yet, he said, no, we're just going to do homeschooling. He's like, if you think about it, if kids return to school right now, it's not even a normal schooling environment, which I totally agree. They're not going to be able to really interact with children. So you have a lot of people saying like, look, I need my kids getting that mental and social interaction. And Barrett made a solid point to say they're going to be wearing masks. They're not going to be able to really, cozy up to their friends. They have to social distance at school. So if it's not a normal experience, he'd rather just be safe than sorry. So the kids will be staying home. They'll have somebody coming in house and working with the kiddies on making sure that they stay up to par on their education. And then he was asked, how about play dates? And he's like, 0 play dates, except for the neighbor right next door, because we know like what he's up to on a day-to-day basis. Then other than that, there's no play dates going on at all right now. So that leads to the big question, did you ever consider opting out of the 2020 season? And he goes, if I told my wife, and of course they had a discussion respectfully, he's like, if there's football being played, I'm playing. He really, and just as Cameron Brate said last week, they really trust the protocols and procedures that have been put into play. And the Bucs staff is doing an amazing job of making sure that everybody is, doing their job and playing their role to have a safe and secure facility. So he as well was like, look, what we have going on there, I trust. Like, you're probably more safe at the facilities than anywhere else. And Brate said the same thing as well as Coach Arians. So it's nice to hear, the consistency and how safe and comfortable every player and coach feels at the Bucs facility. Now, in terms of, preparing for a season without having preseason games, you guys have probably heard me pipe along the fact that preseason is so important, especially to those guys that kind of waver on that line of, you're good enough to be an asset to the team, but we don't have room for you, or, vice versa. So guys are going to have to work 10 times harder in training camp. So we got a chance to ask Barrett, what does this mean for your game in particular? And what is this going to mean for the team to not have a preseason? And he's like, look, we have to use practices as games and training, as our practices. Our whole mindset and mentality is going to have to change. And every day is going to be a day to show up and to work hard. And you're going to have to dive into film 10 times harder. Now, as for some of the structure changes to the facilities, what would typically be the media workrooms have now turned into meeting rooms for the guys so that they can minimize those group settings, break down the guys into even smaller groups, social distance and all. But it also gave everyone a chance to have that elongated time without worrying about the COVID stuff and dive into the film and questions and bouncing off of one another. So I feel like there's going to be a whole different analytical approach to this season, because you've got people that are just that are just players at heart. You see something, you grasp it, you get out there and you do it. But having that extra dive in opportunity, or now the extra meetings that, the teams and guys are having, it's going to put everybody on a whole new level of interpretation out there on the field. So that's what I'm kind of more psyched about to see when football comes back, how people are mentally operating out there and how much sharper, some plays or some players may become. Now, we know that we face off with the Saints quite early, and last year the Saints are one of those teams that just knew how to get under our skin. We got an opportunity to beat them one game when they had Teddy Bridgewater at QB1, but then when Drew Brees came back, that was kind of a tough game to not only watch, but I'm sure as a player to participate in. They beat us on both sides of the ball, but we beat ourselves with the turnovers. If you guys go back a couple segments, I went to the full dive in of what games were winnable games for us and where we beat ourselves. And I think we can really bet on the fact that we probably won't do that as much, if at all, this season. Turnovers are a real killer out there to hand over the game to the other team. He said that he's definitely looking forward to facing off against the Saints nice and early, because they are a strong team to compete against, which means they're going to help the Bucs get on top of their game, review some things, and really correct some parts of their game nice and early in the season, giving them a chance so that they can move on to a playoff. I can't imagine this season going by and the Bucs not at least being in playoffs, because we've corrected one of the biggest components of not only our offense, but a healthy offense is going to help our defense not overwork themselves on that side of the ball. And Barrett said it himself, the part that he's looking forward to the most with having Tom Brady joining the Tampa Bay Bucs is that he's going to not only help the offense, but he's going to help the defense. He's going to help the defense not wear themselves out and be on the field too much, and he's also going to help with field positioning, because come on, the guy's got an arm on him, and he's a very, very analytical and logical quarterback. The other thing to keep in mind when it comes to the Bucs is that obviously today was the first day that media got to participate and be alongside at the facilities, and we're now a full week down of training camp going on in the NFL. And the biggest thing that you could look forward to when it comes to Tom Brady is the targets. We know that everyone is really hype on this offense between Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, And it's funny because he had to correct somebody about that on Twitter the other day. Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, Justin Watson. Then you head over to tight end position with Rob Gronkowski, Cameron Brate, OJ Howard, Tanner Hudson. When you think of what Brady is about to have and how quickly he snaps that ball, to have those opportunities, as long as those guys are fulfilling their routes or doing their job on the field, they are going to be very hard to stop. Not only does he have size and speed when it comes to his wide receivers, but just to put something in perspective, think of Gronk, 31 years old, 6'6", 265 pounds, and people are saying that he's even bigger in person. Brate said it in his interview last week. He's like, look, I'm a pretty sizable guy, and he made me feel and look small. Then you got Brate, 29 years old, at 6'5", 236 pounds, 25, 6'6" at 242 pounds, Hudson 25 at 6'5", 239 pounds. So to think of the duos that he can run in the tight end lineup out there is just going to be absolutely mind-blowing. I cannot wait to see this offense fire off. Now, aside from the Bucs and Brady and, of course, all the excitement that we love to talk about as we cover Tampa Bay sports, we've got Big Ben recovering from elbow surgery where he has completely repaired 3 torn tendons. Now, we know that Big Ben was out a lot last year with the Steelers, and the biggest question on the line has been how much more time does he really have? He's up there in age. He's had his handful of off the field issues, but how much time do you guys think Big Ben has left? And is he going to just completely take over this season, or are they going to just continue to start grooming the backup QBs on that roster? I want to hear you guys' input on this, and we'll kind of dive in on the next segment. Which QBs, how much time they have, how much time to groom their successors, and when is it time to really hang up the cleats? Now, as for timetables and people's careers in the NFL, we've got some big news when it came to Antonio Brown, that he's only going to be suspended for 8 games of the season. And then at that point, he's free for teams to grab without feeling weird, guilty, or awkward. Now, he's a freak of nature. We know that he's got speed. He's got the ability to break away on crucial plays. He has the ability to get open. Matching up with him is a headache for corners and safeties. He's definitely an asset when it comes to the game and the game alone, and hopefully the off-field issues will minimize themselves after they took the turn that they did and blew up as big as they did. So what team do you think is going to be the best fit for Antonio Brown, let alone what team will actually give him the opportunity and kind of look away from the antics that have taken place in the past year? I know a lot of people are pushing to think that he's going to end up here in Tampa Bay, but I want to hear you guys' thoughts on Big Ben as well as Antonio Brown and his next career move in the NFL. Now, a little gear shift when it comes to football conversation. We saw that the XFL had their first season this spring, and obviously they were able to finish it off because of COVID-19. They didn't go to a pause. They just went to a complete stall. And in that stall, they actually ended up having to file or declare a Chapter 11 bankruptcy on April 13th, and they have been seeking for a buyer for the past 3 months. Marketing has, produced itself on TV segments. We know that we saw things seem to still be going well, but the XFL players themselves were quite silent. And now we know why. Due to the bankruptcy, due to them looking for another owner, what better owner than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? We know that he played for the Miami Hurricanes back in his day, and after not completely navigating through an NFL career, he went ahead and transitioned over to the WWE, where his dad also wrestled. He had a phenomenal WWE career. Then after everything, I don't know anything The Rock doesn't do, so I think it only makes sense to buy a team. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the market for an NFL team, but XFL is a good start, especially because he has that relationship with the WWE and Vince McMahon, and if he can do anything, I think he can make this a more profitable sport for sure. They had a pretty good start going so far. Why Vince McMahon had to give it up, I'm not entirely sure, aside from the money issues, and I know that they wanted to bring more antics and entertainment to that kind of football. So I'm excited to see what The Rock does with it as the new owner for $15 million of the XFL. Stick with us, guys, as we head to a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we break down some NBA and NHL.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, welcome back. So for NBA updates and news, 40-year-old guard Jamal Crawford made his long-awaited debut for the Brooklyn Nets on Tuesday, but he had to leave the game early against the Milwaukee Bucks just after 6 minutes of playing time because of a hamstring injury. So prayers and thoughts go out to him and a speedy recovery. That would absolutely suck to finally have a debut and be kind of out of the game or any upcoming games after that. Now, Coach mentioned that he loves having a 40-year-old on his team, not only because he has a strong veteran presence, but he just has such a passion and a love for basketball that runs so deep that he feels like it'll be contagious across the team. And I can say that from interviews that I've done, NBA coverage that I've done, having that veteran presence is going to put the right mindset and mentality in those younger guys. Because when you think of sports, like, NBA now, the guys have to finish a certain amount of college, but they come in so young, just as hockey does. And sometimes you can come in and it's just a whole new world and it's overwhelming and your headspace isn't in the, proper, most positive or clear form. So having these kind of guys on your team is definitely an asset. So praying for his speedy recovery so he can participate in games and continue to just be an asset to the team and to the rookies out there. Now, Zion plays an extra 25 minutes, closing time of a win. He said that he felt alive. His competitive spirit was there, and he's just really happy, that coach and the whole team trusted him to finish the game out. We know that they're not trying to give these players, especially their key players, too much time on the courts or the fields, because, you're playing at such a high speed right now to finish off these seasons. You kind of have to hold out on overworking your best players. So either way, he was excited to be out there and get that extra game time and be an asset to his team. Michael Porter Jr. scores a career high of 37 in the Nuggets overtime win. And for our scores in the NBA, yesterday we have the Grizzlies falling short to the Pelicans, 99-109. We have the Spurs falling short to the 76ers, 130-132. And then the Lakers topping off the Jazz, 116-108. And earlier today, we had the Nets and the Bucks. The Nets took it 119-116. Mavericks versus Kings. Mavs beat them 114-110. And Suns topped the Spurs 117-115. Now, as we transition into the NHL, I got to give it off to these guys. As of July 27th to August 1st, this will be the second week consistently that they are reporting 0 positive COVID tests, which is phenomenal in either bubble. So far, they're not struggling with any COVID issues in the bubble. The guys are not complaining. The biggest thing that you're hearing is, of course, we miss our families, but, we're here, we're focused. There's so many games coming up that they're going to just be going from practice to recovery to back on the ice. So that's really, really fantastic news. We know that the bubble is obviously working, because if you're not having too much commotion and coming in and out, then you're minimizing the risk entirely. So it was more of a positive note to think that this would hit off well. Now, Lightning versus Capitals yesterday at 4 p.m. I was anxious about this game. Now, I know Red Robin doesn't particularly count, but this kind of is going to set the tone of what the actual playoff qualifier games are going to look like. And when it comes to the Lightning, I love them to pieces, but we've struggled the past couple seasons to finish and to really be consistent in our game to get to that finish line. Things are looking really good so far. I'm not going to lie. So I was anxious because the Capitals are probably one of the toughest opponents that we go up against, not only because they're a very skilled team. I mean, Ovechkin is just a phenomenal hockey player. He's already going down in history, and you'll see him in the Hall of Fame in Toronto soon enough, I'm sure. But they also have that physical component to the game. And as skilled as the Tampa Bay Lightning are, we obviously take more of a speed and skillful approach to 90% of the games that we play. Now, where we get flustered, where we end up giving up our lead, where we end up just completely suffering in the game entirely, is when we play very physical teams like the Flyers or the Capitals. And yesterday's game was nothing short of physical. We saw Hathaway for the Capitals trying to get under every player's skin for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then there was TJ Oshie, who had it out for Yanni Gourde, and there was multiple fights throughout the game. We saw some old scores trying to get settled as well between Wilson and Chernak. So the physicality was definitely there, but how the Bolts kept up, I am extremely impressed. Now, the one issue in Scare Zone was the fact that we gave up a lot of power plays yesterday, or a decent amount, obviously, due to the physicality. And then, of course, some tripping up on the ice and whatnot. But the Bolts had 0 power plays in the entire game yesterday, which was really strange to see. I don't know if that's really like a great thing because, obviously not too much was going on our end, but then in the same sense, it's kind of like, dang, you want that power play opportunity because it's another point on the board most of the time if your unit is strong and well. And we know one of the biggest components to our power play unit is Stamkos, and he is still not playing just yet. So other than that, Point and Cooch had another strong game. We know that when they did the exhibition game last week versus the Florida Panthers, they were leading the team, and they did nothing short of that yesterday as well. Point was applying a lot of pressure to the Capitals defense, and he was playing with so much speed. I mean, we know he's a quick guy, but he was playing with so much speed and so much precision, and he just really was like a fly on those guys for the Capitals. And Cooch is just so skillful. When you watch his puck handling skills and his stick handling skills, it's like you get lost just watching what he does out there with the puck, which, makes it obvious that he got a goal. And when it came to the first intermission, Blake Coleman was the interviewee for the first intermission, and he just said, look, Point and Cooch are taking the lead or taking charge right now, leading the team, and we need to follow suit as soon as possible. Now, when it comes to Coleman, he's one of the newest additions to the Tampa Bay Lightning, as well as Goodrow and Bogosian. And I will say Coleman and Goodrow's skating yesterday was really, 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 really well. They had a lot of pace. They were getting into some really tight corners there, alleviating the guys off the puck. They were doing very well being present on the ice. You can tell that they're definitely a part of this team now. One of my favorites to watch yesterday, besides Goodrow, is Bogosian. He not only had a promising amount of time on the ice, but he made some promising strides in his play yesterday. Now he's coming off of multiple hip surgeries and recovery, and he's played very strong so far. He got into the middle of some crucial plays. He was a strong body on the ice for the Lightning. He had a heck of a game yesterday, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him get a lot more ice time coming up here. And that helps the defensive units back there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the other duo that I really enjoy seeing on the ice for the Bolts is Kalon and Cirelli. Cirelli is one of those players who I think his career is going to end up taking off in the next season or two. Not only can he skate hard, skate fast, he's got precision on the puck, but he's one of those players who he does not give up. He does not let off until he's back on that bench to gas for air, get that breath. And him and Kalorn together, they just now have this unspoken bond out there that you can see in their skating and their passing, and as they work their way up the ice, they had a good amount of they created a lot of good amount of scoring opportunities for the Bolts, and I would bank on them having a solid playoffs coming up here. Now, as for other guys in the NHL who are just freaks of nature or have a promising career ahead of them, we've got Svechnikov for the Hurricanes. We saw this guy light up or break the internet, whatever way that you want to put it, when he did the lacrosse wraparound move into the net scoring. Now, he had a hat trick leading the Canes past the Rangers. Svechnikov, sorry, you guys know that these names give me. Svechnikov is the eighth different player in the NHL to score a hat trick in the postseason before the age of 21. Yes, this kid is a freak, and I know we're just going to see so much more from him. I mean, the lacrosse trick alone had me sold. Jordan Eberle is one of 5 players for the New York Islanders franchise history to score 6 or more goals in their first 10 playoff games. So congratulations to him. Connor McDavid doing what Connor McDavid does. If you have a minute, go to YouTube, look up Connor McDavid Adidas hockey, and just see the things that this guy does on the ice. It's like he came out of the womb playing hockey, and he's just here for show. That's basically the best way that I could put it when it comes to Connor McDavid. He's also one of the fastest skaters in the league. Now, a promising moment and a very uplifting moment is that when the Dallas Stars played the Vegas Golden Knights, there was players that kneeled during the national anthem to show their support for everything taking place in our nation right now. It may not be the top headlines, but obviously there's still plenty going on in which everyone needs to pay attention to so we can continue to grow together and in unity. So Tyler Seguin decided to take a knee with one of his teammates for the Dallas Stars. He said, "I talked to Ryan Reeves before the game, and it just inspired me to make sure that I make a statement to say, look, I support everyone going through this matter, and I'm going to continue to make sure that this matter doesn't die down or isn't forgotten about just because there's other things going on." If you look at social media all over NHL PR or PR NHL, you'll see the photos. And we know Matt Duma had a moment where he came up during the national anthem, kneeled, and he had players on each shoulder, just kind of all showing their unity. The NHL has stepped up to such a magnitude to make sure that this point is something that's not going to die down early, and that's actually going to bring real change this time, not something that's talked about for a little bit and then kind of swept under the rug just to revisit it, because aren't we all kind of tired of redundant conversations? So hats off to Tyler Seguin, his teammates on the Dallas Stars, as well as the Golden Knights. Stick with us, guys, as we go to a quick commercial break, and then we break down some MLB and MLS.
At Taco John's, you can expect one thing: so good. As in quality ingredients used in tacos and burritos made just for you. Every single bite.
So good.
Expect nothing less at Taco John's.
All right, guys, welcome back. Now, MLB news is quite brief. We know that those guys are struggling with plenty COVID. And the COVID drama continues. We've got the Cardinals-Tigers 4-game series postponed after 13 members of the Cardinals organization test positive for COVID. There really hasn't been many positive updates when it comes to the Miami Marlins and how they're managing the outbreaks across their team. But I guess in a better light, Nationals reinstate slugger Soto from the COVID list, so he is now recovered, healthy, and ready to go and hit the pitch. Now, For MLS, we are in the last leg of the MLS tournament down in Orlando. The guys hit the semifinals tomorrow, and the final takes place on August 11th. So, as for Saturday's scores, we had San Jose fall short to Minnesota 4-1. We also had NYFC lose to Portland 3-1 on Saturday. And then tomorrow for the semifinal, we've got Philadelphia versus Portland. And guys, Orlando City versus Minnesota. Make sure you tune in for that game. I'm not going to lie, Minnesota's putting up a good fight out there on the pitch, but I think Orlando City can make it to the final. They've been so consistent. I'm so proud to see the consistency that they've played with. And if anything else, they're also going to want to honor their buddy Dom Joyer out there, who had surgery, a successful surgery on the knee, and he's watching from home cuddled up with the fam. Now for some quick across-the-pond soccer news, we got Man City signs Torres from Valencia for $23 million deal. Excuse me, I couldn't see those numbers. Adding to Man City's already impressive roster and the work that they've been putting in across the pond. That's it for me tonight, guys. I hope everybody once again has had a fantastic week. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got the Tampa Bay Lightning facing off versus the Bruins tomorrow at 4 p.m. yet again, and we'll bring you a full breakdown and update on that matchup this coming Friday at 8 p.m. Don't forget to tune in. I appreciate you guys. And per usual, stay safe, stay sane, stay kind, stay compassionate, and wear your mask. I'll catch you guys Friday at 8 p.m.